Since it's Halloween month, I decided to play the game with Pokemon's equivalent to zombies, the fossil Pokemon. Yesterday I did Omanyte, so today it's time for Kabuto. This was one of my favorite Pokemon as a kid, just because it seemed so dark, mysterious, and brooding. Too bad it's clearly the weaker first stage fossil Pokemon in Generation 1. And that's because of how its base stats are distributed. It has 30 HP, 80 attack, 90 defense, 45 special, and 55 speed, giving it a 10.5% chance to crit. So while Omanyte gets incredible defense and special, which is utilized both offensively and defensively, Kabuto just has incredible attack and defense. It certainly drew the short stick here, and I expect this playthrough to be more of a challenge as a result. You'd think that with a primary rock typing, a high attack stat would be awesome. Well, it's really not, because Kabuto does not learn a rock type attack. Granted, there are only two rock-type moves in the game, Rock Throw and Rock Slide, and Rock Throw is quite bad because of its accuracy. Still, it feels like a crime that Kabuto doesn't get Rock Slide, especially when it's a TM. To start, Kabuto gets access to Scratch and Harden, which is honestly pretty decent. It's a badge-boosting move right away, and Scratch is 100% accurate. Its rock typing also allows it to resist normal type attacks, so all the battles in the early game are going to be easy. While battling the rival, let's just take a moment and appreciate how Kabuto's back sprite looks kind of like a Neely board or a surfboard. Fitting, since I'm going to be using it to surf around Kanto today. Now, since Kabuto is a water type, I should mention something that I have talked about before, and that's that when the rival chooses Jolteon, it's typically an easier time than when he chooses Flareon. After all, Jolteon can miss with Thunder, which is its only attacking electric-type move, whereas Magneton, which appears on the Flareon team, will never miss with Thunderbolt. And without the Steel-type in Generation 1, it doesn't take 4 times damage from ground moves, and it has a really good defense stat still. As a physical attacker, I think the Kabuto is going to fare much better against Jolteon because it has lower defense. So I need to defeat the rival on Route 22 so that he'll pick that team. Here, Kabuto faces a problem that Omanyte didn't have to deal with. It's vulnerable to Spearow's Growl. Omanyte, of course, could just fight him right away because it had Water Gun, which is a special move. Still, in this fight, I have an advantage, and that's my rock typing, which gives Kabuto the bulk it needs to win. Also, I did get a lucky crit along the way. Now as I head through Viridian Forest, let's discuss Brock. His rock typing is very good defensively because I only have a normal type move in the form of Scratch. Examining my move pool a little bit further, Kabuto is only going to learn Absorb at level 34. Slash then at level 39, Leer at level 44. Yeah, that one's going to be so useful, right? And then finally Hydro Pump at level 49. Obviously, it doesn't learn anything until level 34 because it was meant to be obtained at level 30 on Cinnabar Island, so Scratch and Harden are all I'm going to have to defeat Brock. Through TM and HM, it learns Toxic, Body Slam, Double Edge, Bubble Beam, Water Gun, Ice Beam, Blizzard, and Surf. While this moveset is small, having Water and Ice moves along with Harden to badge boost is going to be very useful for it. Notably, one move is missing here that Kabutops does get access to, and that's Swords Dance. Oh, I can't believe that this thing doesn't get it. If it did, I would predict much better results for it. I expect not having this powerful setup move is really going to hold it back. However, that wouldn't be available in the early game, and now I need to figure out how I'm going to get past Brock. In order to defeat him, Kabuto either needs to survive a lot of hits or deal multiple damage per turn. After all, Geodude and Onix together have more health than Scratch has PP, so I can't do 1 damage every hit. It might seem that using Struggle would be the best choice here, after all it has higher base power, but in Generation 1, Struggle is a normal type move, so Brock's Pokemon resist it. Also, in Yellow version, Brock's Geodude only knows Tackle. That means recoil damage plus it using Tackle every turn is quickly going to sap away Kabuto's health. As a result, I don't think that's going to be a viable strategy. Instead, I'll just level to a point where I can brute force Brock down. Because of my rock typing, I felt that level 13 would be a good place to start, so let's see how this goes. Geodude's first, and it looks like Scratch is doing more than 1 damage, which is really promising. Even better, Geodude is only doing 1 damage to me. Because this takes a while, Brock ends up missing once before I knock his lead out. Onix is next, and unfortunately, I only do 1 damage to it. Making this even slower is Bide, which I can use Harden over multiple turns to avoid taking damage. This strategy only works if you can outspeed the Onix, and in Yellow version it has 23 speed. Conveniently, Kabuto has 24 speed right now. That's barely enough to avoid taking damage from Bide. Still, that isn't enough because Scratch runs out of PP when Brock Snake still has orange health left. So that's going to be my first reset. I don't want to waste any more time. I haven't mentioned until this point, but Kabuto has a medium fast growth rate, so it won't take me too long to level up again. I reviewed some numbers here on damage ranges because I didn't want to spend forever grinding when Kabuto doesn't need to, and it turns out that only one level higher, my damage increases against his Onix, so I come back at level 14 and try again. Now, because I'm doing 2 damage per hit, I'm able to whittle his snake down, going for Harden whenever it uses Bide. I finally take the victory against Brock, and this is a roughly 12-minute split, which honestly isn't that bad when I only had access to a normal type move. While my rock typing has helped defensively in this stage of the game, it's going to stop doing so very soon, because the next gym leader is Misty. Because she has good AI, this means she's always going to use water type moves against Kabuto, which do neutral damage. By the way, on Route 3 I decided to fight this lass with the Jigglypuff. I call her the Jigglypuff lass, and she was so brutal when I did my Porygon race. Just because of that, I got Serena to draw some art for her. My plan here is to fight so many extra trainers for experience, as I know Kabuto needs it before Cerulean City. Misty won't be possible right away, especially because of my low special stat, so I'm going to head for Nugget Bridge. But there's a problem there as well. This lass has 2 Oddish, and they know Absorb. It's actually their only move. Omanyte ended up defeating her because of its large special. It might immediately seem that Kabuto has a better chance because it can deal physical damage with a neutral move like Scratch, whereas Omanyte had to rely on Water Gun, but the fact that I have lower special and take 4 times damage from Absorb makes me quite worried, especially when the Oddish is going to gain back health every time it hits me. I continue fighting extra trainers throughout Mount Moon. After all, I can't come back here once I reach Cerulean City. It's also really helpful that Water Gun was just inside the entrance, and that makes most of these battles faster. Especially against this hiker, like he's basically free experience. At the end of the cave, I finish off the Super Nerd and earn myself the glorious Dome Fossil. Kabuto is very happy. After all, I always make the right choice here. Jesse and James are next. I'm able to get through them with ease. Before I face the rival on Nugget Bridge, I head into Misty's gym though, and I face the optional swimmer and the trainer with Goldeen. After all, these two give decent amounts of experience, so I might as well polish them off now. Okay, there's no way I'm going to beat Misty, so let's go and face the rival. Spearows first. I go for Water Gun, it does just below half, and Leer lowers my defense. Please don't use Growl. Oh great, it uses Growl on the second turn. Now my attack stat is only 2 points higher than my special, so I guess Water Gun is probably better now. Note that the move display in the top left includes both the same type attack bonus and type effectiveness when calculating power. This is to estimate how much each move will do. You can see that when Water Gun's power doubles here when Sandshrew comes out, that's because it's super effective. I take it out in a single hit and Rattata's next. I chose Water Gun because this thing has low special. It does more than half and then the rat hits me with Hyper Fang. Oh, for only 6 damage. I knock it out the next turn. Eevee's last, and it only has normal moves. The problem though is that it loves to chain Sand Attack. Luckily today, it doesn't, and I take the victory. On Nugget Bridge, I continue to double down on training. I fight most, but not all the additional trainers. I want to hit level 25 before the Oddish lasts. This means I'll be over the damage rounding threshold, and if you didn't know, Pokemon that have levels that end in 0, 3, 5, and 8 are doing significantly more damage than they were the previous level. By the way, also this hiker is great for experience yields because you can knock out his rock-type Pokemon really quickly with water moves. With all that out of the way, I'm now ready to try the last for the first time. Oddish is first. I cross my fingers, go for Scratch, and it does so much, taking Oddish to red. Now, how much is Absorb gonna do? It does about a quarter? Okay, and my second Scratch knocks the Oddish out. I wonder if I was a bit too conservative for this fight. Water Gun knocks the Pidgey out in a single hit, and the second Oddish hits the field. Its Absorb takes Kabuto just under half health, and then my second Scratch finishes it off. Okay, so I probably could have defeated her at level 23 over the previous damage rounding threshold. But Misty is coming up next, and I'm gonna need more levels for her anyways, so I'm happy I did the training. However, I still don't want to face her right away because Starmie is such a beast, especially because it's fast and it has a move like Bubble Beam. Before I'm going to face her, I want to make the trek south to the SS Anne. After all, Kabuto has strong physical attack, and that makes this rocket easier to defeat. After him, this junior trainer with 3 Pidgeys can be annoying because she loves to use Sand Attack. In this case, I am exposed to this tactic because I can't one-hit her team. Luckily for me, her Pokemon only have normal type moves, so Kabuto can sustain and take the win. Now why did I head south to Vermilion City first instead of fighting Misty? Well, that's so that I could get the TM for Body Slam, which is going to be a major upgrade for Scratch. It has more than twice the power and a 30% chance to paralyze the opponent. I'll just mention here that when a move has a secondary effect, like Body Slam's chance to paralyze, these moves can't inflict that status to Pokemon that share the move's type. So Body Slam can't paralyze the rivals Spearow, Rattata, or Eevee in the battle here. I should note that a move like Stun Spore can still paralyze grass types because paralysis is the move's primary effect, not its secondary effect. This is also why a move like Thunder Wave can paralyze Surge's Raichu. Now with the rival defeated, I'm ready to head back to Cerulean City and face Misty for the first time. Staryu's first, and with 48 speed, I could move first, and I bet Body Slam would knock it out. But I'm not going to do that. Instead, I want to set up with Harden to stack badge boosts so that my attack stat gets higher. If you look in the bottom left, you can see how my attack stat is recalculated every time I use Harden. My goal here is to be able to take Starmie out as fast as possible. I'd rather tank the water guns here than the bubble beams from Misty's ace. Unfortunately, Staryu crits with water gun, and it does about a quarter on the first turn. I set up more, tank one more hit, and then I knock the Staryu out with Body Slam. Kabuto just barely doesn't level up, which is great because if it did, it would have reset my badge boosts. Next, Starmie comes out, it moves first and uses Water Gun, which does so much because it scores a critical hit. So that's really unlucky. I use Body Slam, it does more than half, taking the Starmie into mid-orange health. I really have to pray now that it won't use Bubble Beam. I think that I can maybe tank another Water Gun, but instead, Misty uses an X-Defend, raising Starmie's defense. Body Slam hits, and it does enough, so that's it. Now, the intelligent thing to do at this point with a special stat like Kabuto's would be to journey through Rock Tunnel and level up a bit more before I face Surge. Unfortunately, I autopiloted a bit and started making the trip down to Vermilion City. By the time I was almost there, I realized that I should have just gone to Rock Tunnel. Well, Surge is bad, right? So I'll just go for it now that I'm here. Raichu's first, and clearly it's got something to prove, because it goes for Thunderbolt right away, zapping Kabuto out of the battle. Okay, that won't happen again, right? And yes, I am right, because in the very next battle, Surge goes for Growl on the first turn, which fails, and Kabuto's Body Slam gets a critical hit, taking Raichu to red health. Oh, it also paralyzes, and that cuts the electric type's speed, so Kabuto goes first, and knocks it out with Body Slam. So yeah, Surge, he's miserably inconsistent. I'm actually pretty impressed with Kabuto so far. It's made it through a lot of challenges early on in the game, and it's done it very well, like only one reset so far. It defeated Brock, the Oddish Lass, Misty, and now Surge. But the nightmare is not over yet. Next is the Rapping Lass. If you don't know who she is, she's this junior trainer, and her first Oddish loves to paralyze your Pokemon, and then her following Bellsprout will usually outspeed after your speed's been cut, and it traps you endlessly in Wrap. Luckily, Kabuto has significantly more attack than Omanyte, and this fight was very challenging for Omanyte. So here, I'm able to knock out the Oddish right away and prevent the paralysis. That means I can sweep the rest of her team and make my way to Rock Tunnel. The first trainer in here is the Pokemaniac, and he has a Cubone and a Slowpoke. The Cubone does know a super effective ground move, and that's Bone Club, but Kabuto is able to shrug it off and knock out the bone-wielding Pokemon with Water Gun. Next is Slowpoke, and it might seem scary because it's a water type, however, it doesn't actually know any water type moves, so I'm able to take it out with 2 hits from Body Slam. That's that. I realized right after this fight that I forgot to teach Kabuto Bubble Beam. That probably would have one-hit the Cubone, right? I choose to replace Water Gun instead of Scratch, just because Kabuto's higher attack means that this move is probably going to be more useful later on, especially to finish off foes, that sort of thing. Next is the Status Condition Junior Trainer. By the way, people have mentioned that she should have like a little bottle of like a powder or something like that, but if you actually look very closely at her skirt, she has powder all over her. I figured that these Pokemon should be easy because the Rapping Lass was easy, but Body Slam doesn't quite one-hit the Oddish, and it hits with an Absorb, getting a critical hit, and that takes Kabuto all the way down from green health to orange. Okay, not great. I knock the Oddish out, but she still has a Bulbasaur. I go for Body Slam, and the Grass type survives on a Sliver. Like, come on! However, then Luck strikes, and it gets paralyzed, which prevents it from moving, and that gives me the KO with Scratch on the next turn. Next is the Self-Destructing Hiker, and here I can use Bubble Beam to wash away all of his Pokemon. I played this game with so many water types recently that he hasn't been an issue for a while. Well, outside of Golbat, that is. Go watch that video if you haven't seen it already. At the end of the cave is the Finisher Junior Trainer, who's basically here to mess you up if you're too damaged from what is usually a grueling journey up to this point. After all, as a kid, I never knew that Flash existed, and I stumbled around, didn't know about Repels either. I was always very bruised by the time I had to fight her. Bubble Beam knocks the Meowth out in a single hit. Oddish is next. I'm out of Body Slam PP, so I go for Scratch instead, and it does half. She then uses Stun Spore, paralyzing Kabuto, so Oddish goes first next with Absorb and heals itself back into green. My next Scratch isn't enough, so yeah, she got me! There's a clear solution here. I picked up an Ether earlier on, so I can use that to restore Body Slam's PP. With it, I can one-hit the Oddish and make it into the mid-game. Because Kabuto is a first stage Pokemon, I collect some items in the Rocket Hideout. I grab the PP up, a nugget, and finally the rare candy. In the department store, I use the money that I collected to this point to buy vitamins. For Kabuto, I wasn't really sure what the best option would be. In the end, I decided to buy 5 calcium because more special improves both its damage with water type moves and its survivability against special moves, like grass moves. I teach Kabuto Ice Beam, and then I head to Pokemon Tower to face the rival. Right now, there's 37 minutes on the clock, which is quite slow. Pokemon making good time at this point in the game would be around 25 to 27 minutes, and an excellent time could be as low as maybe 20 minutes. However, I didn't have a particularly good Brock split, and I had to do a lot of extra training to get through Cerulean City. Normally, I'm also very excited at this point of the game because the Pokemon has got access to a lot more awesome TMs. But with Kabuto, I'm just mourning the fact that I don't have Rock Slide. Come on, Game Freak. I did get access to Ice Beam, and while it is a nice addition, I really would have liked a new, more powerful physical move. But unfortunately, Body Slam is essentially my best move for the rest of the playthrough. I could teach Double Edge, but that really doesn't seem like a good idea because it deals recoil damage. Plus, Body Slam's paralysis can come in so clutch. Kabuto does get access to Surf during this portion of the game too, which I teach it right away. It's nice that this gets Stab, but I won't be using it too much because of how low my special stat is. Now, with moveset planning pretty much out of the way, the most important thing left for me is my rooting, so which section of the game am I going to choose to tackle next? I think that it makes most sense to go to Sylph, because there I can do some extra training. I start by facing the Rocket on the 10th floor. After defeating his Machoke, Kabuto finally hits level 34 and gets its chance to learn its first level up move. In this case, learning Absorb wouldn't be a very good option. While it would be nice to have a damage dealing move that also gives recovery, base 20 power without Stab just isn't good enough. So it's really ironic that Kabuto's moveset is basically already complete when it learns its first level up move. By the way, did you know that if you transfer a Kabuto back from Generation 2, you can actually transfer one back that has Aurora Beam, Dig, Mega Drain, and Sand Attack? Honestly, those are some pretty good moves. I'm really wishing that Kabuto got access to Dig naturally in this game. Also, Game Freak realized the error of their ways, and there is an event distribution Kabuto that has Rock Throw. It was given out in Generation 2, and it can be transferred back to Generation 1. However, Rock Throw, trash accuracy, 65%, yeah, probably not even a desirable move to have in that case. Also, when considering the moves it gets access to in Generation 2, it already learns Ancient Power and Rollout, so why would they give it Rock Throw? It doesn't help. I guess we'll never know why Game Freak made this decision. After all, Kabuto, pretty mysterious. By the way, actually, where are its eyes? Has anyone ever asked this question? Are the eyes on the top of its head the eyes? Or are the, glowing red things underneath its eyes? Or are those there to, scare away predators that are trying to attack it from the bottom? Actually, Yellow's Pokedex entry might have the answer, because it says that when Kabuto was hiding on the seafloor, it would use the eyes on its back to look for predators. So that implies that it actually has 2 sets of eyes. Cool. After defeating all the convenient trainers in Sylph, I dig out and then I train in the fighting dojo, which culminates in Kabuto reaching level 41. The Sylph rival's Jolteon won't be manageable yet, plus Harden won't badge boost my speed. I'd need to defeat Koga first for that. So I'll head to his gym next. I defeat an additional tamer here just so I have level 43 before the important fight. Conveniently, I got poisoned right before, and that's very useful because this means the first Venonat can't use Sleep Powder. Due to his AI, he's always going to prioritize it if you don't have a status. Sleep is obviously much worse than being poisoned, so I'm happy to take this chip damage today. Now I'd really like to be able to one-hit as many of his Pokemon as possible. If I can get through all the Venonats to the Venomoth without taking too much damage, that's great. So I set up Harden to boost my attack with the Badge Boost glitch. After 2, I go for Body Slam, and it does underwhelming amounts of damage to the first Venonat. While I do manage to take it out, I'm not doing enough and the second one takes me down, so that was not a good first fight. Instead of facing him again, I'm going to backtrack to Celadon City and go to the Grass Gym. And here I need to mention Kabuto's type effectiveness. It resists normal flying, poison, fire, and ice moves. Yes, Rock only takes neutral damage from ice. The fact that Rock is so commonly paired with ground and these Pokemon have terrible special stats really convinced me that Rock was also weak to ice as a kid. Kabuto is weak to fighting ground, electric, and grass, the last of which is a 4x weakness. So this gym is sort of a double-edged sword. Getting experience here will help me survive the Koga battle, but there's also the potential to lose very quickly, especially if one of Erica's team members survives a single hit. But I'm here right now, I might as well give her a try. Let's go. First is Tangela. I go for Ice Beam and I get a lucky critical hit, knocking it out in a single turn. Okay, goodbye silly Shoodvine monster. That's a nice start. Weepinbell's next. I go for Ice Beam once again, and it gets the knockout, even without a crit. But Gloom is slightly bulkier, so maybe it's going to survive. But once again, it doesn't, and with that, I've won. I guess the fact that Kabuto's level 45 really carried me. Because Erica's badge gives me the ability to use strength outside of battle, I make a trip to the Warden's house to grab the rare candy that's there. Let me just ask the question, why does this guy have 5 bushes inside of his house, and why is there a rare candy in the middle of them with a boulder blocking access to it? I'll remind you, all of this is inside his house. I guess he did lose his dentures in the Safari Zone. So have the little rock and forest. Have whatever you want, man. Before doing additional training, let's try Koga again, because I have an alternate strategy here. Instead of trying to set up Harden to improve Body Slam's damage, I can go for Ice Beam on the first turn and potentially freeze the Venonats. I want to roll for a freeze over paralysis here, because if I do get it, then I can set up for free. After all, you can't defrost in Generation 1. Unfortunately, I don't get it, and the Venonat puts me to sleep, but Kabuto wakes up quickly. Koga uses an X attack, and I knock it out with a second Ice Beam. It's time for the second Venonat. Once again, I don't freeze, and it hits Kabuto with Psychic. At least it didn't do too much damage, that's nice. I take it out with Surf, and its final Venonat comes out. And then I fail the freeze again, and that means I'm asleep for way too long and I get knocked out. I try again, but the fight plays out exactly the same way, and that makes me decide that I need to train more. Just west of the gym, there's this little area with 3 bird keepers. Ice Beam gives me a fast way to knock out all their Pokemon and earn experience. After that, I fly back to Celadon City and make my way to Cycling Road. Here I can defeat more trainers, leveling Kabuto all the way up to level 48. This is convenient because it's just over the next damage rounding threshold. Now, will that help against Koga? Well, Ice Beam fails to freeze, so I get put to sleep right away. Kabuto wakes up, I knock the first Venonat out, and finally I freeze the second Venonat. Okay, this gives me all the time I need to set up 6 Hardens, doubling my attack stat to 253. By the way, badge boosts actually stack until the stat reaches 999, which is the maximum value. But for that to happen, you need to start with a high stat or chain together moves like Harden and the opponent using Leer or Tail Whip. Hopefully, 2 times my original stat is going to be enough today. Body Slam 1 hits the third Venonat, and then Venomoth comes out. This grass fighting type is pretty intimidating for Kabuto. I go for Body Slam, and unfortunately the Moth survives, because it's a fighter. But then Koga, its master, drops the ball, and it tells it, use Leech Life. And yeah, it gets a Gen 1 miss. What a performance. This is Surge Tier. As a result, I earn myself the Soul Badge, and with it, a 12.5% boost to Kabuto's speed. Another advantage that this badge provides is the ability to use Surf outside of battle. This lets me head to Cinnabar Island, and this is great because Blaine should be very easy. Honestly, he has nothing that threatens Kabuto, because all his physical moves are normal types, and Kabuto doubly resists his fire type moves. However, Arcanine burns me, which does annoying chip damage. I try for Ice Beam, maybe a freeze. After all, fire types haven't started resisting ice type moves. That happens in Generation 2. I don't get the freeze, and even without it, I'm able to take the Arcanine out. With Blaine out of the way, his Volcano badge gives me a boost to my special stat. So now I have all 4 badge boosts. Now let's get a little bit into the programming weeds with the badge boost glitch, so I want to describe how it works. When the player obtains one of the badges that provide the boosts, the Boulder badge boosts your attack stat, the Thunder badge boosts your defense stat despite what the in-game text says, the Soul badge boosts your speed, and the Volcano badge boosts your special. They boost your stats by 12.5% or 1/8. However, this only happens when you're in battle, so if you check your Pokemon's summary page, you won't be seeing these boosts. Here's how it works. So when your Pokemon is sent out into battle, it takes the memory from the party slot and copies it to a different location in the RAM. Then it applies the badge boosts to the data in this location. Then when you use a move like Harden, what the game does is it looks back at the party structure, sees what stat it is, and applies the modifier to that stat. Then it says, I need to apply the badge boosts. And then it looks at all the battle RAM and reapplies the badge boosts to those values. So this is why the badge boost continues to stack up and why the stat that you're actually modifying with your move is modified correctly. During battle, my software is watching the battle RAM locations, so you can actually see these events play out in that order. You can see my new stat be calculated and then the badge boosts calculated on top of that after. Pretty interesting. Against Ninetales, we can see these interactions. Harden is correctly recalculating my defense, but my attack, special, and speed all are increasing. Unfortunately, Ember burns Kabuto, which halves my attack stat, so I guess from here I'm going to have to use special moves. I go for Surf and it takes Ninetales out in a single hit. Thanks badge boosts. Cloyster's next, and it takes a quarter damage from Ice Beam and half from Surf. But my attack stat is terrible now, so Surf's going to do the most damage here. Actually, it's going to deal so much that it knocks the water type out in a single hit. Kadabra's next. Because of my speed boosts, I move first and knock it out with a single Surf, and now it's time for his ace, Jolteon. I move first, hit with Surf, and it takes the Punk Rock Doggo out. So that's the power of the badge boost, and that's why I've kept Harden on my moveset for so long. Finishing Sylph gives me access to all the other buildings in Saffron City, so I stop by Copycat's house and pick up Mimic. After all, this is like one of the best moves in Generation 1. Then I head over to Sabrina's gym to face the Psychic-type Master. First is Abra. My speed lets me move first, and I one-shot it with Body Slam. Next is Kadabra. It moves first, but Sabrina replaces its attack with an X Defend, and that allows it to survive Body Slam and go for Kinesis. Luckily, it misses, and I knock it out. Alakazam is last. It outspeeds with Psywave, so it's probably not going to do very much, right? Could do like 1 damage. Oh, actually it just misses. Body Slam paralyzes, and I knock it out on the following turn. Okay, so in yellow version, Sabrina really isn't that good. So there's only the Viridian City gym left. And this is a great opportunity for me to fight some trainers. After all, there's only Victory Road after this. This gets Kabuto to level 55 before Giovanni. Unfortunately, his Dugtrio and Persian are still faster. First are the moles, and here I'm a bit worried about Fissure. However, Giovanni uses a guard spec first turn and Surf knocks it out. Just a perfect display of dominance by the last gym leader. Persian's next, but it only knows normal type moves, so I can take my time here and set up. However, I use Ice Beam first turn just in case I get the freeze. Remember, Body Slam can't paralyze Persian, so Ice Beam's the only option for a status in this case. I don't get it, so now it's time to set up Harden. As I mentioned before, the badge boost can be chained all the way until your stats hit 999. In this case, Persian knows Screech, so I can chain that with Harden and very effectively boost my stats. The only limiting factors here are Kabuto's health and, well, my patience. At 265 special, I figured this was enough to defeat Giovanni's final 3 ground-type Pokemon. Surf one-hits the Nidoqueen, and it also one-hits the Nidoking. By the way, sometimes this Nidoking survives, and that's because it has 4 more special than the Nidoqueen. And then, because Surf does 4 times damage to Rhydon, this is all over. Next is the rival before the league, and his team has a couple places that are convenient for Kabuto to set up the badge boosts. I need to do this to ensure that I outspeed the Jolteon. I could set up against the Sandslash at the start of the fight, but I decided to knock it out with Surf. Next is Execute. I need to knock it out right away so it doesn't ruin my speed with Stun Spore. After this, there are still 2 options for setup. The first is Ninetales, and I really should have set up here because it's awful. But instead, I knock it out with Surf and move on to the Cloyster. Now, because of how good AI works, it's going to either use Withdraw or Clamp. First turn I get hit with Clamp, but after that I'm able to start setting up, and then I knock the Cloyster out. It would have been better to just set up on the Ninetales and sweep it even faster. I one-shot the following Kadabra with Body Slam, and here's another aspect of the badge boost glitch in action. When you level up, it recalculates all your stats, and this resets all the boosts. As a result, Jolteon moves first and knocks Kabuto out with Thunder. By By the way, I only had one badge boost, and this Jolteon had 151 speed, so I didn't even have enough speed anyways. I can fix all this by setting up Harden 6 times against Ninetales, and from there this fight should be a shoo-in. Body Slam 1 hits Ninetales, Surf 1 hits Cloyster, avoiding Clamp entirely, and Body Slam 1 hits the Kadabra. Now, I've arrived at the Jolteon with full health, and even though my badge boosts were reset, I should get the time I need to knock it out. But instead, it uses Thunder Wave paralyzing Kabuto, and then Thunder still gets the one hit. Okay, so I should really level up so that I'm not leveling up mid-fight anymore. I head to Route 15, defeat a few trainers, and level up to 57, and now I'm able to make it back to the Jolteon and move first with Surf. But unfortunately, it doesn't do enough damage. Jolteon uses Thunder, it hits, and Kabuto hangs on at red health. So that's it. I finish the fight off. Now it's time for the Elite Four, the strongest trainers in the game. The first of them is Lorelei. For this fight, I tend to have a standard strategy, which is if I have a special move, I can then use Mimic on her Slowbro to steal Amnesia and boost my special stat. By doing this, I can usually ensure that I one-hit her Jinx and Lapras. I'm doing this to avoid awful status conditions like Sleep from Lovely Kiss, Freeze from Ice Punch or Blizzard, or potentially Confusion from Confuse Ray or Paralysis from Body Slam. Yeah, these two Pokemon can mess you up really bad. Today there's a complication with this strategy, and that's that Kabuto is probably going to take a lot of damage from Slowbro's Surf. This move was newly added to its moveset in Pokemon Yellow. Also, Lorelei has a quite rare AI modification, and that forces her Pokemon to use a setup move on the second turn they're in battle. Because of good AI, it's going to either choose Withdraw or Surf, so what's it going to go for? In this case, I get unlucky, and it goes for Surf, doing so much damage to Kabuto, leaving it with only 32 hit points. But maybe with Amnesia I'll be able to survive. On the second turn, she has to use Withdraw, which buys me enough time to set up Amnesia once before Slowbro hits with Surf again. This time, Kabuto survives with only 13 hit points. In Generation 1, a Pokemon's critical hit rate is determined by its base speed. This means the Slowbro is tied for the lowest crit rate of all fully evolved Pokemon, at 5.86%. I do squeeze in one more Amnesia, this was pretty risky, and then after that I go for Surf. And Slowbro goes for Withdraw, allowing me to hit 2 times and I take it out. Next is Jinx, I take it down, and then it's time for Lapras. Because Kabuto didn't really start with high special, I don't think I'm going to be able to knock it out. And I'm right, Surf does just more than half. Then Lapras goes for Hydro Pump, so that's it. Unless it misses, and because of that, I take the victory. Alright, that was a lucky win, but yeah, I'm moving on. I said the Elite Four are the strongest trainers in the game, and I meant it, because Agatha is their second member. She has potential to be incredibly cruel to Kabuto because her first Pokemon, Gengar, has Mega Drain. For this fight, I'm going to use another one of my standard strategies, and that's to mimic Substitute. Unfortunately, I get confused right away, and Kabuto hits itself once before I can finally set up. Gengar hits with Lick, which has the potential to paralyze. Thankfully, it doesn't, and I get my Substitute set up. Now, I want to get this ghost out of the way as fast as possible to avoid Mega Drain. Surf breaks its Substitute, and it gets another one set up, which is really annoying. I break it again with Surf, and then Agatha switches Gengar out for Golbat. I decided it was probably best to use this opportunity to set up Harden, because the Golbat can't deal significant damage to Kabuto. After all, it has Leech Life and Wing Attack. Because she knows that, she switches back to Gengar, and then I knock it out with Surf. Alright, excellent. From here, the fight's going to be much easier. I set up on the Golbat to ensure that I have maximum possible damage for the following Haunter. This is very important because while Substitute blocks Confusion and Poison, it doesn't block Hypnosis, which the following two ghosts have. Unfortunately, Surf doesn't one-hit, Haunter survives and uses Confuse Ray. Okay, so I've got it. The following Arbok is a one-hit, and all that's left is her ace Gengar. I go for Surf, it does just over half with a critical hit, and Gengar also tries Confuse Ray. So that's it. Kabuto wins on its first attempt. Honestly, when I first reviewed my stats and move pool, I thought that it was really going to struggle a lot more than this. Only 8 resets to this point. It's really decent. However, I'm at an hour and 20 minutes of playtime, which is certainly not fast for a water type. Poliwag would be halfway through a second playthrough right now if it was racing Kabuto. For Lance, I teach Kabuto Blizzard, and then I use the rare candies that I've saved to this point. After all, his first Pokemon is Gyarados, and it's very intimidating. Well, not yet, because this isn't Generation 3, but Gyarados is still a serious threat. I go for Blizzard on the first turn, and it does less than half. Oh no. The AI forces Lance to select Hydro Pump, and it does more than half to Kabuto. Right now, I'm really wishing that I was playing the Japanese red and green versions, because in those games, Blizzard has a 30% chance to freeze. That would just be so convenient here. In this case, Gyarados doesn't get frozen and it knocks Kabuto out. Okay, well, this is going to be frustrating. At least there's this beautiful synergy on the screens right now. There are 569s. Nice. The chance that Kabuto has against Gyarados here is that Hydro Pump is 80% accurate, so it misses first turn, and then I'm able to take the Gyarados out as a result. However, I had to use a lot of Blizzards to do that, and the following Dragonair represents a problem as a result. I only have 2 PP left. Either I use Blizzard here and then Surf or Mimic Ice Beam on the next Dragonair, or I can just miss Blizzard against this Dragonair, and it could use Thunder Wave and paralyze me, which leads to a loss. Just great. Losing there doesn't feel good because I had excellent luck against the Gyarados. In the next fight, I managed to somehow survive 2 Hydro Pumps. I didn't even think that was going to be possible, but because Kabuto has so little health, it's unable to survive the Aerodactyl, which obviously outspeeds. Another frustrating situation arises if Lance uses a Hyper Potion on Gyarados. Basically, my PP isn't big enough anymore. However, in this case, I cannot believe it because Hydro Pump misses over and over. Yes, Gyarados didn't hit a single Hydro Pump against Kabuto. I knock it out and move on with full health for the first time. Blizzard hits the first and second Dragonair, leading to Aerodactyl. But I'm at full health and I resist Swift, so I knock it out with ease. All that's left is Dragonite. Okay, I think I've got this. After all, Blizzard has 90% accuracy, so of course this is the time that it misses. Dragonite uses Thunder and it gets a critical hit, knocking Kabuto out. Alright, I'm not ready to move on yet. Let's do an instant replay of that, because I was playing this playthrough live on Twitch, so here's how I felt in the moment. No! What? What was that? I cannot believe this. Okay, so I've had enough of this. I'm not risking missing against the Dragonite anymore. I mimic Ice Beam from the second Dragonair, and with it I'm able to finally defeat Lance and move on to the champion. Up first is Sandslash, and this is perhaps one of the worst Pokemon to face in all of Pokemon Yellow. It's usually so frustrating. Today, it's going to be especially annoying, because Earthquake is super effective against Kabuto. Yeah, I'm a rock type. Water doesn't resist ground. In this case, the champion's good AI is going to force him to use this move every turn. I mimic Earthquake because I want Kabuto to have a powerful physical move, and I get hit for more than half as a result. I do knock it out with Surf on the next turn, and then the champion sends in Alakazam. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to set up on Sandslash, and this means I'm slower and get hit by Kinesis before I land my Earthquake. Luckily, it knocks Alakazam out, but that might have been because of the badge boost that Kinesis triggered. I'm not sure if I can consistently one-hit it. Next is Exeggutor. I go for Blizzard first turn in hopes that it'll freeze, but instead it crits and doesn't freeze. Without recovery, things are looking really bad. In the end, Cloyster ends up using Clamp, and that finishes Kabuto off. I experimented with not mimicking Earthquake and taking Sandslash out right away. Maybe Blizzard can freeze the Alakazam and give me a free chance to set up, or maybe Blizzard can just miss and I get finished by Alakazam instead. What about another approach? If I use Harden against Sandslash first turn, it'll reduce the amount of damage that Kabuto takes from Earthquake. It actually reduces it so much that it isn't doing half anymore. This gives me one more turn to mimic Earthquake and then knock it out. I survived on red. This setup lets me outspeed the Alakazam and knock it out right away with Earthquake. Exeggutor's next, no recovery here, so I'm going to need to freeze it or the fight's over. Unfortunately, I don't get it, and that means the following Cloyster polishes me off with Clamp. Instead of mimicking Earthquake, I can make it past Alakazam, albeit in an inconsistent fashion, and make it to the Exeggutor, where I can mimic Leech Seed. This will give Kabuto a bit more sustain against the Cloyster. I set it up first turn, and now whenever it hits Clamp, I heal. But unfortunately, the fact that Exeggutor set up Leech Seed on me means that I'm not dealing enough damage. So yeah, Kabuto goes down again. Right, okay, this is starting to get painful. Alakazam rubs it in by getting a crit with Psychic. I try another strategy where I mimic Recover from Alakazam, and now I can set up fully with Harden on the Exeggutor, after which I heal and knock it out with Blizzard. But the issue now is the Cloyster. It's dealing too much damage with Clamp, and if I heal, then it just gains health back with Leech Seed. Each time I have to heal, it feels like I'm further and further away from victory. Eventually, Cloyster gets a critical hit with Clamp, and that's it again. One of the things that I've always found hard to communicate in these videos is the psychology of playing these challenges. After an hour and a half of intense focus, arriving here at the champion and losing over and over while trying different strategies is very frustrating. As the frustration and exhaustion build up, sometimes it gets easy to make mistakes. Also, it's easy to make mistakes because I'm usually thinking about what strategy would work best next while I'm trying to execute the current strategy. And in this case, I accidentally mimic Alakazam's Psybeam, so that's a reset. At this point, it feels like mimicking Recover from Alakazam is the best choice. After all, I think I would have eventually defeated the Cloyster if it didn't get a critical hit. So in this case, I'm really kicking myself for forgetting Rest. Would be really useful here. So let's talk about the psychology of why I forgot Rest. Well, with Kabuto, I was fixated on the fact that I needed Body Slam to defeat Misty. Also, I wanted Body Slam to defeat the water types on the Sailor's team right in front of Rest. What this means is I reordered my SSN so that I went to the Body Slam room first. However, usually I always go from the Body Slam room to the room with the gentleman with the rare candy. So at that point, after obtaining Body Slam, I autopiloted and did my normal sequence of actions, and then after defeating the rival, my normal sequence of action is to leave the ship. And by doing that, I forgot Rest. The funny thing here is that it's really fitting because I also forgot Rest with Ammonite. So yeah, these two playthroughs are going to be very comparable. This time I do manage to beat the Cloyster after a long fight, but there's an issue. Kabuto only has 2 attacking PP left in Surf. I need to land my next 2 hits to be able to win. Unfortunately, earlier in this fight, Alakazam hit with Kinesis, so that might not happen. I use Surf, and it knocks the Ninetales out. All that's left is Jolteon. I move first and use Surf, and it misses. So that's another reset. When I started streaming this playthrough, my viewers asked me what my estimate was for Kabuto's finish time, and this is what I said. I think Kabuto is going to get, I'm going to say an hour and 20 minutes. First attempt. So it looks like this will be significantly slower than my prediction. In the next fight, I get a lucky freeze against Alakazam, allowing me to set up Harden fully before I take it out. That way, Blizzard 1 hits the Exeggutor. Okay, I'm proceeding to the Cloyster without Leech Seed. This is the best possible scenario. The Champions team is truly awful because this move in combination with trapping moves like Cloyster's Clamp or Ninetales Fire Spin is honestly too much for most Pokemon. And usually Exeggutor is bulky enough that it can survive one hit and land this move. This lucky freeze should be the thing I need to secure victory. I knock the Ninetales out, and Jolteon hits the field. Please, Generation 1, don't make me miss. It doesn't, and I finish the champion off. Kabuto clocks in with a time of 1 hour, 36 minutes, and 25 seconds, with 20 resets at level 71 in 5 hours and 13 minutes of game time. But that was a stressful champion fight. I have no idea if I'm going to be able to make it more consistent, but first I can have a nice relaxing fight against Mewtwo to calm down. This one is very easy. I try to resist the urge to use Blizzard in this fight because I'm not timing myself and I don't record these results. It's pretty boring to beat Mewtwo with a broken status condition. Even with one small claw hand tied behind its back, Kabuto is able to defeat Mewtwo on its first attempt. In all my videos, I do a second playthrough to essentially verify my results and hopefully improve upon them with some optimization. To improve this, a member of the community and I started working on a piece of software that allows me to calculate very precisely nearly every aspect of a solo playthrough. It's called RBY XP Router and it's linked in the description. I'm using this to plan out my second playthroughs and it's going to remove the need for the testing section in my videos. After all, now I can calculate things much more precisely than having to play battles 5 times against a trainer and get some anecdotal evidence. So as we go through my second playthrough, I'll explain all the changes that I made in order to improve Kabuto's time. My goal was to get this thing under an hour and 20 minutes, so let's see if I was able to do it. The first thing to verify in the playthrough is my damage ranges against Brock. Going into this fight at level 13, Kabuto deals 3 to 4 damage against the Geodude and 1 to 2 damage against the Onix. But as I discovered in my first playthrough, at level 14, Kabuto is much better off against Onix. Now it deals a minimum of 2 damage and it could deal 3 in a good case. With this finesse, I'm able to get by him with no resets. I clock in almost 2 minutes faster. So the next major obstacle for Kabuto to overcome is the last at the end of Nugget Bridge. I'm confident that level 25 is the best choice here because it prepares me for the rest of the game as well. On the SSN, I grab Rest, not forgetting it this time, but right before I also stop and grab the Max Potion, which is going to be important later on. With Rest, I head back to Misty, and let's examine my damage ranges against her. My mistake last time was trying to set up Harden here, which just wasted time and gave Staryu more chances to damage me. Because I outspeed, I always one-hit with Body Slam. By taking it out right away, I have more health for the Starmie. Starmie has a 5% chance to 2-hit Kabuto with Bubble Beam, but I have a 100% chance to 2-hit with Body Slam. Because Starmie can never one-hit Kabuto and Body Slam can paralyze, this fight is very safe. Obviously, I'll skip Surge until I've reached Celadon. I'm not making that mistake again. In the Rocket Hideout, I make a small change. I defeat the Rocket member and I grab the TM for Double Edge and an additional Hidden Nugget. By selling all these items, I'm able to buy 5 vitamins and I choose Carbos. It turns out that the speed is much more important. If my playthrough wasn't going well and I had to purchase super potions in Vermilion City, then I could have sold the max potion that I mentioned earlier and still bought 5 Carbos. Now, I have to defeat Surge if I want to access Fly. It just doesn't make any sense to delay him any longer. Body Slam is always a 2-hit with a 2.7% chance to 1-hit. Unfortunately, even at my higher level, Kabuto is still going to be taken down by a Thunderbolt in a single hit. Raichu doesn't go for it though, and I have no resets coming out of this battle. The next fight that needs to be solved, of course, is Koga. I need good damage ranges against his Venonats, and there's a really unfortunate thing here, which is that even at level 60, Kabuto won't one-hit the Venonats. So thinking about this in a time-conscious manner, it doesn't make sense to overlevel that much to fight him. So as a result, I decide to fight him at level 50. Along the way, I face only the mandatory trainers in Pokemon Tower, but then I start training on Route 16, which is Cycling Road. After that, I head to Sylph and I fight the Machoke trainer and the Arbok trainer. After them, I fight 16 other trainers, and this brings Kabuto all the way to level 42. I clear out the Fighting Dojo and Erika's gym, and that makes Kabuto reach level 46. At this level, Ice Beam has a 20% chance to one-hit the Tangela. Body Slam is better against Weepinbell, but only with a 77% chance to one-hit. And finally, I only have a 45% chance to take the Gloom down. Because I'm taking 4 times damage from grass moves, this isn't a good solution. However, if I use 2 rare candies, that pushes me over the next damage rounding threshold, which results in a 68% chance to one-hit the Tangela, and guaranteed one-hits on both the Weepinbell and Gloom. Today, I did accidentally use Ice Beam on the Weepinbell, which isn't the best choice because it's only going to KO 82% of the time, but luckily I got it and I still have 0 resets. After that, I make my way to Koga's gym, and here I only fight the mandatory trainers. Defeating the final Pokemon on their teams levels Kabuto up to level 49, and then I use a rare candy to take me to level 50 over the damage rounding threshold. As I mentioned before, at level 60 I'm not going to one-hit, so here I'm going to use Ice Beam followed by Surf. I could potentially freeze, and this is the best choice. I considered Mimic strats to steal Sleep Powder to improve consistency, but that would require me to defeat the Sylph rival first, and I think I need the speed boost to beat his Jolteon. So in the end, the best thing to do is just 2-hit all the Venonats. For Venomoth, Body Slam has a 20% chance to 2-hit, but a 30% chance to paralyze as well. Honestly, things got really bad here. I reset a total of 5 times. I really do wish there was a better way to win, but yeah, this was the best that I could figure out. With what is probably the worst part of the playthrough out of the way, I now head to Cinnabar Island. For extra levels, I grind on all the trainers in Blaine's gym, and then quickly defeat him. After that, I head back to Sylph and defeat the rival. At level 52, Surf 1-hits the Sandslash, Ninetales, and it can 2-hit the Cloyster. After that, Body Slam 1-hits the Kadabra and 2-hits the Jolteon. As I've planned, its Thundershock can't 1-hit the Kabuto, even if it gets a critical hit. The following experience from Jesse, James, and Giovanni isn't enough though. I need to face 2 additional trainers in Sabrina's gym. This gives Kabuto enough experience to level up to 55, and then with 7 rare candies, it reaches 62, which gives it 135 speed, allowing it to move first against all of Sabrina's Pokemon. Body Slam is powerful, but it only guarantees 1-hits on her Abra and Kadabra. Alakazam is a 2-hit, but it only knocks Kabuto out if it gets a critical hit. That's why I needed the speed to move first against it, just to reduce the number of hits it gets on me. Next is Giovanni's gym, and I face 1 optional trainer here, the guy with the Sandslash and Dugtrio. This levels Kabuto up and gives it enough speed to move first against all of Giovanni's Pokemon. I have guaranteed 1-hits against 3 of his Pokemon. Persian takes 2, but I resist all its normal type attacks. The second Pokemon that can survive is the Nidoking. However, I have a 93% chance to 1-hit. Also, its Thunder only knocks Kabuto out if it crits, and there's also a 30% chance that it just misses. So I feel comfortable with this fight. After I defeat the rival using badge boosts, I have to get lucky in Victory Road. To level Kabuto up and prepare it for the League, I have to fight 4 trainers here. the last of which is this trainer who has the Bellsprout line. This is quite risky because the Victory Bell can survive my attack and KO, but this time I live and that levels Kabuto up, preparing it for the league. Lorelai's first and she's exactly the same as she was in my previous playthrough. Mimicking Amnesia is all that Kabuto needs. It does require a bit of luck, but I get it today and I move on, sweeping through the Hiker's team. Okay, it's time for Agatha. You'll notice here that my speed is 147, and that's because I fought the Juggler in Victory Road. If I skipped him or fought a different trainer, I'd have 146 speed, so stat experience is very important here. This lets me outspeed her second Gengar. By the way, it has 146 speed. This is so important because the first Gengar has Mega Drain and it's so devastating. Like, look at how much it did to me. After I set up my substitute, I have red health, but because I'm moving first, things are possible. I was so surprised that even with the worst start to the fight, Kabuto still managed to pull through. I'm on track for a sub 120 finish. Before Lance, I use my last rare candy and then I teach Kabuto Blizzard in the place of Mimic. The Gyarados is still awful, I'll admit that, but there are actually 4 potential paths to victory. 1. Blizzard can freeze. 2. Body Slam has a 20% chance to 2-hit. 3. Body Slam has a 30% chance to paralyze, which could cause the Gyarados not to move. And 4. Hydro Pump has a 20% chance to miss. In this case, I tried Blizzard first and that resulted in a loss. After that, I used Body Slam because this is obviously the better option. And then Hydro Pump misses, and that gives Kabuto the victory. No awful misses this time on the Dragonite. For the champion, I have Rest. Everything feels right now. Surf 1 hits the Sand Slash, I get a lucky crit on Alakazam. Normally it would take 2 hits, but its attacks aren't consistent enough to be worrying. Against Exeggutor, I take my time and set up Harden. Yes, it uses Leech Seed, but with Rest that doesn't matter. Also, I leveled up right after the Alakazam, by design, so I won't level up again in the fight, preserving my badge boosts. This means that now the Cloyster is a simple 2-hit. Ninetales is a 1-hit with Surf, and all that's left is Jolteon. Body Slam has a 93% chance to take it out, I get it, and Kabuto clocks in with a time of 1 hour, 13 minutes, and 43 seconds, with 6 resets at level 70, in 4 hours and 42 minutes of game time. I did it! Under 1 hour and 20 minutes, roughly 23 minutes faster in total, and at a lower level with less resets and less game time. I am happy with these improvements. I always love it when I can improve all 4 metrics. Now, let's rank Kabuto in the Pokemon Yellow tier list. Well, it's slower than Golbat, Meowth, and Tentacool, and this is where things get crazy. It's 2 seconds faster than the best time that I got with Aerodactyl. So this is why I record 4 metrics for each Pokemon, because it's essentially a tie in this case. I need a way to break it. It's a bit unbelievable that the first stage fossil is as good as the single stage fossil Pokemon. I can't believe how bad Aerodactyl was in Generation 1. So let's compare the other metrics. Kabuto got 6 resets, and so did Aerodactyl. Kabuto finished at level 70, while Aerodactyl finished at level 68. Okay, so that's an edge for Aerodactyl. Kabuto's game time is 442, and Aerodactyl's is 440. So that's so close, especially because I play on 4 times speed, that it is hard to say that Aerodactyl came out ahead. Honestly, this is the closest tie that I've ever had. There are some other factors here that I do think need to enter into the decision making. Kabuto is a medium fast growth rate Pokemon, while Aerodactyl is a slow growth rate Pokemon, which really hurts it. Also, this is my second playthrough with Kabuto, but with Aerodactyl, I had to do 4 to get this result. As a result, I do think that Kabuto is slightly better, so today it earns a spot just in front of the Flying Terror in the C tier. Like, subscribe, ring the Chimecho, and comment because I gotta read them all. I've enabled YouTube memberships now, by the way, so you can support me this way if you choose. Also, thanks to everyone who supports me on Patreon already. If you've made it this far, you're incredible. Now, it's bloopers time. Instead, I'll level up to a point where I can brute force Brock team down. Yeah, of course. I don't know why I just said the way I said Brock, I just started thinking about broccoli. I think I've been eating a lot of broccoli lately. It's like, can I make a broccoli joke with Brock? Maybe with Oddish. Oddish is a radish, it's not broccoli. I'm gonna call my Oddish broccoli when I do that playthrough. I finally take the victory against Block. He feels like he blocks so many playthroughs. I'll just mention here that when a move has a secondary effect that is, like Body Slam's chance to paralysis. No! Stay on script! When I go off script, it gets bad. Don't do that. I'll just mention here that when a move has a secondary effect, like Body Slam's chance to Paralyze. I wrote paralysis. I realized right after this fight that I forgot to teach Kabuto Bubble Beam, which probably would have one-hit the Kabuto. I was like trying to combine Cubone and Kabuto, and I was like, I can't do this. And then my brain just stopped talking. I choose to replace Water Gun over Scratch because Kabuto has higher attack, and Scratch could be good. Oh my gosh, it just broke there. But Body Slam doesn't quite one-hit the Oddish, and it hits with an Absorb. Plus, Body Slam's chance to paralyze. Why did I write paralysis in the script so much? The Silph Rival's Jolteon really isn't going to be manageable yet. Plus, Harden won't badge boost my speed because I need to defeat Another advantage that this Spood boost. It's like food and speed at the same time. Am I just going to like record this whole voiceover? I've been going 45 minutes. It's like, I might just record the whole thing without stopping. I actually don't think this script is complete. I'm just going to like record and then it's like, it's going to be done. I'm going to be like, I don't know what to do. I procrastinated on the script. Just played Jolteon and Flareon and Vaporeon yesterday. Everyone asked me for that video. It's coming. It's coming. It's going to be great. I'm really excited. Today, the strategy of mimicking Amnesia from Slowpoke. Yes, she has a Slowpoke. Lorelei's Slowpoke. Okay, here we go. Yeah, just knock out the first two. Easy. Alright, this time, Arcanine, don't burn. Just don't burn. It's like so low chance that it burns me. Because it's like a 10% chance on Ember, but it doesn't always use Ember. Also, it can just like constantly use Leer here. It can't burn me while I'm asleep, so I should heal. And it can use Roar, which does nothing. Oh, that crit. That was annoying. Okay. Let's take it out. Take the Blastoise out next. This should be easier now. Oh. Survive. What the? Ah, no! Oh well. The Gyarados just barely survived. Either way, I won. Defeated Oak. Hope you enjoyed the video. See you next time.